Hotep in the Car series, Montsho Edu, without my better half this time. Shout out to Montsho Edu in the field where it's real. Today I wanted to talk about mental health and the stigma of mental health in the black community. I was talking to a young person recently, and we were talking about the idea, the concept that people say mental health is there's a stigma with mental health in the black community, and he was curious as to why that is. Coming from a young mind and observing, as our youth do very well, soaking everything in and trying to understand what is the reasons for some of the things that we say as older people. And what I shared with him, my perspective, was that the reason mental health in the black community is considered a stigma, or there's a stigmatization around mental health and the ideas of our mental well-being, is because I believe there's a collective acknowledgement that mental health is, we're all suffering from mental dysfunction. And the mental dysfunction comes in the form of, we all know that we're outside of ourselves. We all know that our behavior, our thought, speech, and action currently is the reaction of mental trauma that we exist in under white supremacy. And so when you look at it from that perspective, and you observe the thought, speech, and action of all of our people, we all demonstrate or suffer from mental illness because we're not ourselves. We're in a system that doesn't allow us to be ourselves, that is hell-bent on keeping us from discovering who ourselves are. So we develop, the dual consciousness that Du Bois talked about, or we develop this really a schizophrenic identity where we're one person here and we're another person here, and we flip back and forth between those two people, or multiple people in some cases. And so we're dysfunctional against our own selves, against the nature or the natural function of ourselves. And so clinically, we're insane, as a group. And so when you talk about why there's a general, a specific stigma, it doesn't really address the fact that there is a general stigma. The specific stigmas come from the overarching general stigma that, we crazy. So now, of course, we always connect cultural links. So I saw a sister this morning as I was riding around through West Trenton. I saw a sister this morning, an elder sister. I'm going to place her about on the upside of 60, definitely older than 55, walking through the community, just waving at everybody. And I mean, like, feverishly waving, like, at every car that passed, at every intersection, she was walking. And people were looking at her like she's crazy. And I remembered a friend that came here, came to the States from Nigeria, and he was telling me that in his village, when people walk by, no matter what you're doing, no matter what you're engrossed in, your meal, or if you're working or whatever, you would stop and greet them and wave, to acknowledge, I see you and you're a part of me and you're more important than anything I'm doing. And so, in that culture, and in our indigenous culture, we have practices like that make us natural and make our mental health, that frame out our mental health in a way that we are well. But in this culture, to do something like that makes you look crazy. And why does it make you look crazy? Because the norm in this culture is to be cold, is to not be welcoming, to not acknowledge human beings when they walk past you, to mind your own business, and et cetera, and just the smiling or the greeting or the warmness of love, that expression in your heart, to share that with a stranger means you're crazy and something's wrong with you. So when you contextualize that and you say, wow, like, if that is mental illness, then what is mental health in this culture? Mental health is to be cold, to be rude, to be disconnected, you know, to be aloof. And we know those behaviors don't originate from our indigenous culture or our autochthonous culture. And so I just find that interesting, and I think it supports this idea or this belief that I have that the main reason that we have a stigma around mental health services in our community is because we know collectively that we're all suffering from mental illness. And we at the Acoma House Initiative, we define mental health as not just the absence of a clinical, you know, a clinical diagnosis of dysfunction, but mental health is the promotion of being yourself in your thought, speech, and action, your symbolic recognition, creation and interpretation, your emotional response, etc. Your autochthonous culture, when you live that out and you decode the environment in a way that supports who you are from a spiritual plane, then you're mentally healthy. Anything else that you're doing means that there's the presence of mental illness. And so it's one of those things that we collectively don't want to talk about because we're all suffering from. I'd like to hear your opinion on it. Hit me up, subscribe to our channel. Let me know how you feel about it and what's your perspective on the stigmatization of mental health in the Black community. And let me just add this. I think another reason is because we know that the very causers, or the causal factors, or the causal group of our mental health is oftentimes who we go to for the correction of our mental dysfunction. And so we know that doesn't work. And I think that is another point that we can explore later. But until that time, as always, we greet you in peace. We say Nia Acoma. Hit us up, the Acoma House Initiative. Hotep.